are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Marriage Adventure Podcast. It's our passion and it's our mission to help couples connect to Christ and to each other. And so we're your hosts, Daniel and Bonnie Hoover.
We're so glad you're with us. And today we're going to talk about one of the biggest sources of stress in marriage. And you probably already know this is coming. Money.
Yes.
But what if the real problem with the money thing isn't money at all? 54% of couples say that money is the number one source of stress in their relationship. You feel that?
Yeah,
yeah,
I believe it.
Yep. If you've ever felt like that, and you and your spouse are on different pages financially, then this episode's going to give you some hope, and hopefully, we're going to give you some practical tools.
Yeah, it's funny that 54% of couples say it's the number one source of stress. If it's not the number one, then in all the rest of them, it's the number 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there. It's in the top sources of stress. And so, what we really want to hit on the podcast today is kind of 3 points, right? Number one, that money doesn't have to cause stress.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be money issues and money stress there throughout your marriage? Yes.
Yeah.
But why it doesn't have to be that big source of stress. And then 2, how to manage finances and how to tackle it as a team. And then we're also going to talk about, we're going to give you some really practical ways. It's like 4 ways to build unity in your financial life. So let's dive in.
Yeah. So when we first got married, this was a big one for us. This was probably the thing we fought about the most, because we were broke, we were stressed,
and we were different.
We were very different about how we handled money because, when I turned 16, I remember my mom sat me down with my checkbook and she said, okay, let me show you how to balance this and let me show you how to keep up with everything in the register, and it needs to be balanced to 0 every month. And so I understood that concept of keeping the bank statement balanced and to save and to set aside the giving and the saving and the spending. You were a little bit different.
Yeah, so my parents, you were the oldest girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the youngest boy. Now, I'm trying to think back. My parents, me and my brothers were all 4 years apart. So there's
4 between each boy.
4 between each boy. So there's 12 years difference between me and my oldest brother.
Mm-hmm.
My parents parented over 2.5, 3 decades.
Yeah.
Right? 60s, 70s, 80s, really half of the 90s, 3.5 decades.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to wonder, were there just things that I was either too dumb to understand or they just forgot that they didn't teach me? Now, I do remember they sat down with a checkbook with me,
mm-hmm.
and they taught me, and of course this is a long time ago, but I remember they taught me how to write things in my register and add them up, okay?
We're sounding really old.
Yes. Because checkbooks were a thing back then. But I don't remember them teaching me how to reconcile my checkbook and different things like that, and that's really where I got in trouble.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
So we had a conflict with that,
Oh, yeah, we did. I'm telling you, Bonnie, my parents, their number one prayer for you, for my wife, I don't even care if they thought my wife would be butt ugly. They just wanted her to be able to do math and keep a checkbook.
Yeah, well.
That was their number one prayer for me.
Well,
And rightfully so.
That's my minimum. That's my maximum is the checkbook. That's about as far as I go. Our kids did not get a mathematical gene anywhere.
You used to be really decent in math, but I have dumbed you down over the years.
I can balance a checkbook. Listen, I'm looking at all this stuff. Our kids are they're in algebra and geometry now, and I'm like, I do not know math. I can't math.
It's also been too long.
It has been. It's been a long time. So anyway, but when we got married, I was a saver, kind of a hoarder on the other side of that coin, and you were a spender.
It was all for ministry.
Right.
God needs guitars. Right.
Apparently he did. And, but we needed food.
That's
and
true.
so that was a big source of contention in our relationship. It was an ongoing fight we had. But that we did eventually reconcile that. Maybe year 2, we were traveling, leading worship, and we came across this financial guru on the radio before anybody else seemed to know who he was.
Yep.
we heard a guy talking on the radio going through Nashville, Dave Ramsey.
I remember specifically we were on the road full time. We were traveling in whatever vehicle we were in, and we'd listen to the radio a lot,
Yep.
you know, and so we were listening to the radio, and I was like, that guy sounds like a Christian.
Yeah.
And so we pulled off the first exit that had anything on it, and I think it was in Nashville or Knoxville there, and it was Dave Ramsey, and
Yep.
his radio show wasn't nationally syndicated, I don't think, at that point. I think it was just in those areas, and he didn't have out the total money maker. He didn't have out any of that, the courses. He had out a book, and so we stopped off at the Barnes & Noble and bought Financial Peace.
Yep.
It's green cover. I'll never forget it.
We read it to get to each other out loud while we were driving, and you know what? He gave all these baby steps, and we were like, hey, we can do this.
Let's just do this.
And it wasn't the book. It was that for the first time in at that point, probably 3 years into our marriage, we got on the same page about finances, and it changed everything.
It was exciting.
Yes.
And so I'll never forget, we had the same goals financially. We saw finances from the same vantage point, the whole reason for money, the whole, you know, and it was uniting. We had shared goals. We had a high five moments, you know, where we'd reach a goal. And all of a sudden for me, the goal, you know, the dopamine hit didn't come from buying something. That was before the days of Amazon. The dopamine hit would come from seeing our savings account rise up.
Yes.
You know, and paying cash for a car and different things like that.
And for me, learning to save and budget to give and be generous was a huge thing too. So, you know, over time, that getting on the same page with that, it changed. It got us on the same team. And I became as much of a giver as you were, and you became just as much of a saver. And so I want you to know out there, if you are struggling with this financial stress and you're like, we are so different, today is the podcast for you, and we want to give you some hope.
Are you looking for a transformational investment in your marriage relationship? Well, whether you're simply looking to press the reset button, or you're heading into a new season of marriage, or maybe you need to process and debrief a particularly tough season, well, a marriage intensive could be the answer. These are private 3-day, all-inclusive intensives here at our farm retreat in the foothills of the North Georgia mountains. They include lodging, all meals, and 21 hours of coaching to help you and your spouse reconnect and strengthen your relationship. Well, if you're interested and you'd like more information, visit themarriageadventure.com/intensives.
Okay, so if today you're already thinking, this title grabbed my attention because it's Beat Financial Stress as a Team, how we can do that, you know, there is going to be stress around finances because there's either too much money, too little. Well, there's rarely too much money, but it's how do you spend a lot of money when you have it? Or most people are struggling. This economy's tough, and how do we make the most of what we make? And there is always going to be this myth in our minds of if we made more money, we wouldn't fight.
Yeah, you were saying yesterday that just how much our property taxes have gone up in the past year.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, you
Right.
know. And so, yeah, an extra few $100s in there would help.
Absolutely.
But I was also reading something the other day that, you know, the housing market has gotten so expensive and different things like that. And this generation, you know, is saying Generation Z, Y, whatever we're on right now, is saying, yeah, but our grandparents, you know, and our parents bought houses for so little, you know, houses now are so expensive, and that's why we can't afford them. And yes, that is true. But at the same time, when we look at it, our parents and our grandparents didn't have like 10 streaming apps they're paying for monthly on their computer. They didn't pay $7 every morning for a cup of coffee. They didn't have the Amazon buy now button that took the decision-making process out of it. They didn't have year-round travel sports that takes $4,000 a year.
You're right.
You know, you paid $25 to the local rec department to play football or baseball, right? And so those decision-making things that we're spending money on is a personal responsibility thing. And so, yeah, times are different, but times are different.
So
right?
what you're saying is that money's not really the problem.
I don't think it's the problem. I think you were right. money stress is always going to be there.
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of it. So I think it really does come down to how you handle it.
Well, and so if money is going to maybe not always be a problem, it's always going to be an issue. So how do we learn to manage it together as a team where it doesn't divide us? Because that's really on the marriage side what we're more concerned with here is keeping unity in the marriage as we learn to manage the money.
So money isn't the enemy, disunity is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So you really don't fight because of money. You fight because you're not on the same page about money. Now,
yes.
so you could have not enough money, more month than money, and you're having money stress, but that doesn't mean you have to fight about it.
Mm-mm.
You know,
No.
it's still a problem, but what we're talking about is how you handle that in your marriage.
Yes.
You can either fight about it or you can be a team and conquer it together, right? And what's the old saying? Nothing unites two humans like a common enemy.
Yes, and money a lot of times is the common enemy.
Yes.
If we can see it as a common enemy and that we're on the same side with it. And so I think that's where we're really trying to get to today is how do you get on the same page with money?
Yeah. Well, Matthew 6:21 tells us, it says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So let's talk about, how do we get on that same page? Marriage is a team sport.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, so you're either going to drive apart or you're going to lock arms and drive together. And so and that's what it did for us in the first couple of years of our marriage is it was a constant argument. But when we got on the same page, it united our hearts so much.
So let me ask you this. I know you work with couples a ton, and the money thing comes up a lot. And I've heard, especially in the modern day, you've got a lot of couples. Well, there's some couples who are coming in who are joining families because you've got, they've been divorced and they're a second marriage, or a lot of them starting out and they've never seen their parents join finances. So how would you advise somebody who's saying, you know what, I think we're just going to keep these separate?
I think that's a great place to start. Two become one in marriage, and that becomes one in everything, right? So the old saying, I've heard Ramsey say this: if you can share a bed, you can share a bank account, right?
Yeah.
You can share kids. If you can share a roof, you can share a bank account.
But what if you're the only one bringing in income?
I'm not bringing in income for me. I'm bringing in our income.
Yes.
Right. So whatever I bring in isn't mine.
Right.
It's ours. Whatever you bring in isn't yours. It's ours. So there's no longer in marriage, this is mine, this is yours. That only exists with the toothbrush.
I like that.
You should not share toothbrushes.
No.
That's nasty.
Yeah, that is nasty.
It's kind of the same way with, right? They're not your kids. They're my kids.
They're our kids.
They're not. Totally blew that. They're not your kids. They're our kids, right?
Yes.
And so two become one. So when you get married, finances should combine. And no matter who makes what or who does what, everything is shared. Everything's combined. And so let's just take this from a sports analogy because I always think those help. On a football team, when the offense scores points, those points don't belong to the offense.
Right.
They belong to the whole team.
Correct.
Right. When the defense scores points, they don't just belong to the defense. They belong to the whole team.
Well, and when you're out and making the money, if there's a single income, you're out making the money, but the other spouse is doing the other things that allow you to be able to make the income. There are things that the other spouse is doing at home to make sure that everything runs successfully, so that they can't. Not everybody has the ability to have one stay at home. I understand that. Sometimes you've got both working and one's making more than the other.
Right.
But in the case of a single income, the other person is supporting the whole mission without bringing them money. They're supporting the other person to be able. So it is ours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
separate finances create a separate marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really, really important. Now, we're not talking about what we're going to call hard money, fun money,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really funny. When we first got married, every Easter, your mama gave you
A little bit of money.
a little
Yeah.
bit of money for an Easter dress.
Yeah.
And you ain't worn an Easter dress in 25 years.
No, but I will get something new to wear.
That's right.
I would. But I would split it with you a lot of times.
Yeah, back then, yes, you
Back
did.
then I did.
And
Not so
then I
much now.
finally said, don't do, because
Yeah.
I would do weddings,
Yeah.
or I would do little one-off things, and somebody'd hand me a check, for preaching a
Yeah.
wedding or something. And so, or you get a birthday, you get a little money.
Yeah.
Those are little, that's fine. I grew up, my mama had hide money.
Mm-hmm.
And her mama taught her. She had a little sock, and she'd stuff some cash in it. And she probably had no more than a couple $100 in there, and it sat in her bedside table. And typically she spent it on other people.
Yeah.
Or she'd go get her nails done, or go to Olive Garden and get soup and salad and breadsticks,
It didn't
with
figure into the
somebody.
budget, though.
Didn't figure into the budget.
Right.
And that is fine.
Sure.
Now, if you got 20 grand sitting in your bedside table and your house is broke, that's another thing.
Yeah.
But
Anyway. Yeah.
so
So what we're talking about, though, is we need to have a combined plan for how we spend the money that's coming into our household,
that's right.
because that keeps our hearts connected.
Yes.
Other than this is mine, this is yours. And so once you're unified in that, the next step is in deciding what kind of life do we want to have together? What kind
Yeah,
of life we want to build with this money?
So the problem is that we build our budget based around our bills and just haphazardly what we end up spending on.
Yeah.
And really what we need to do, and this is what great companies do, is you build your budget based on your mission.
Mm.
And so, because God gives us money for what are the reasons? What do we teach our kid? Save it, spend it, give it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So God gives us money as a resource to sustain our life and his mission.
I think what you just said there, first of all, is key for us to understand, is that God provides the money.
Yes.
God gives. It's not this, I'm out earning this paycheck. I think we have to start with the understanding through the spiritual filter of understanding that everything in this world, we're living in God's world that he created. And when we ignore him in that, that's sin.
Yeah.
And we need to acknowledge God has entrusted us. He's providing for us, which takes pressure off of you. I know that a lot of men feel that, well, I have to provide. Yes, you do need to work hard to make sure that you're helping support your family, but God provides that job. God is the one who has provided those resources, and then we are the stewards. If you can understand it from that to even start with. So
Absolutely. And so we need to find out, we need to get on God's page with mission and values, and then let that align our budget and how we spend our money. Because if we don't do that, something is going to tell us how to spend our money.
Oh, yeah.
And it's either going to be all of our friends and the people that we live in the society with, and we're trying to keep up with those people, or it's going to be our urges, right? The dopamine
Or our
hits.
kids. They tell us how to spend our money.
Or our kids, because they see their friends and how other people, or
Yeah.
they see, TikTok, and they see these viral stuff. I remember when Colby was little, right? And he's a big sports fan. He'd see all the stuff, and he'd want to do all this stuff. And I said, buddy, no, we can't do that. We can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me one day, Dad, are we poor? Because I had to tell him.
Because you
I
can't
said,
go to the Georgia game and the Falcons game every week,
exactly.
all the things.
From his vantage point, if you had to say no to something, you couldn't afford it, you were poor. And that's
Right.
just, that's a little kid's vantage point. But we need to get on God's page with our mission. And so that's why we want to point couples to our Marriage on Mission blueprint. And so what that'll do is it'll help you understand how to set a mission statement, core values for your family. And we also have a Marriage on Mission mini course. If you go to themarriageadventure.com, right there on the homepage, you'll see our signature courses. And in that course, it's just 3 sessions. We encourage you to get away for a weekend or send your kids away. And I will walk you through how to develop a mission statement for your family. I will walk you through in session number 2 how to set goals for the next year financially, spiritually, and for your family. And then in session 3, I'll talk to you about how to create rhythms in your marriage to avoid that drift. So once you have your mission aligned, then you can appropriate your money into that mission. So if you're interested in that, go to themarriageadventure.com and you'll see that blueprint or the signature course, and you can get those there.
So what you're saying is that it's important, it's really important for us to figure out what our values are before we make a budget.
Yeah.
Because what we value is what we're going to spend money on.
Because if you don't, then you're just paying whatever whims you have, or you're just paying the bills, right? Now, there's some bills that's not going to change. You're going to have a house.
Sure.
But your mission and values will determine what kind of house you have, right? The only reason we live at a farm and have a 10-acre farm is because of mission.
Yes.
We would have never moved here if God hadn't given us the mission to do this ministry.
That's right.
And so
now we have to budget to pay for this the taxes on
the
the
property
place.
taxes as they go up. And so, yeah, determine your values and what God's mission is, and then you can budget appropriately, right? Are we going to do travel ball? And I pick a lot on travel ball. That's okay if that's in the mission.
Well, there was a year that God said this is part of your mission.
For us,
yes.
We did it for 3 years.
And one or two of those years we paid for it.
Yep.
And we saw that as, you know what, if we were going to go on an out-of-the-country mission trip, we would spend that amount on a one-week mission trip. So this year is going to be our mission with the families and the people that we come in contact with through baseball. So it was part of our mission that year. So we did budget for travel ball.
Yep, exactly. And it was as effective as a mission trip, right?
Yes.
It was our mission. Yep. And so, yeah, align your budget to your mission, but you got to figure out what your values and mission is first.
Well, and sometimes I think there's a problem that we feel like that budgeting is punishing us. It's like a punishment. But
to some of us with that personality, it is.
Yeah, I know. But really and truly, budgeting is giving yourself permission to spend on the things that you've decided together that matter.
That's right.
It's like, I've got permission now to spend on this thing because we both said, hey, we get to spend on this thing.
Right.
It's important.
It's kind of like in every car, there's a gas pedal and there's a brake pedal. And in every marriage, there's usually a gas pedal and there's a brake person that's a brake pedal. And the stoplight gives us permission to stop, the brake pedal to be used, and the go light, the green light, gives the gas permission to be used.
I feel like I'm always the brake.
Well, and I know that you don't like that.
I don't.
But you keep us from going off the cliff.
Okay, so, and that kind of pivots into the next thing I know we want to talk about is that what happens in our marriage when we do manage money differently, when one is the gas and one's the brake, or we just have a different idea about managing money. How do you handle that? Because I know that did cause some I still feel like I don't like being the wet blanket on the project.
I know so, you don't, but you have to be. No, that's not true. That is where you're gonna have to do something to get on the same page and understand vantage points and perspectives, because
I don't want to always be the bad guy.
No, and truthfully, it's not healthy for anybody for me to be this crazy spender, right? Nobody needs that.
Right.
And so and my spending usually has to do with ideas and mission and entrepreneurial type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which can just be as fleshly as anything else if it's not under the Spirit. So for us, and I don't mean to promote Dave Ramsey, but for us, that's what that provided. And so you're going to have to find some way to get on the same page there. And that page is understanding that your differences are your strength, right? God created you different for a reason. Who was it that said, I think it was Billy Graham's wife said that if God had created you both the same, there'd be no reason for one of you.
Right. Right.
And so your differences are your great strength. You just have to be able to lean in to that. So you need a spender, giver. You need a saver, protector in every marriage. If not, you're not going to have any fun, and you're not going to have a house. And
I think that did help us when we recognized that.
Yeah.
I mean, we still struggle with it, but early on when we got on the same page with that, I think it helped that we stopped seeing our opposite things there as opposition as much as we're teammates and we need somebody playing offense, somebody playing defense. We can't both play the same position, or we'd either be broke or we'd be, we'd be hoarders. So
Yeah. Do you feel like that gave you, it attributed value and a voice to you
yeah,
when we got on the?
I do, because I felt like that. I always felt like I was the bad guy,
Yeah,
and
you were.
I know,
I'm just kidding.
but it also made me feel I didn't. I know it, you did tell me this early in our marriage, that you already had a mom and you didn't need another one. And that money piece, because I managed the balance the budget, made me feel like the mama that, and I felt like I had to be, because we weren't on the same page, and I kept having to tell you no.
Right.
And
yeah.
that I hated it.
Yeah.
And when we both understood the yes, and we both understood what the no was, it took that responsibility off of my shoulders.
And then I had to man up, become an adult,
Yeah.
and say, you know what? No, we need to bring this back into alignment. It didn't change the fact that I was the spender or the vision person, and that requires money. But it came underneath the lordship of the Holy Spirit, and that encouraged, and that meant that I was partnering with you as a team.
Well, and this is something that people might take issue with, is that there are a lot of people that feel like the man, I just want to, this is kind of off topic a little bit, well, but it's on topic. Men feel like I've got to be the one that keeps the checkbook, that manages all the finances in the house. And some people feel like that's the leadership head role of the man, that he has to do that. I feel like that the leadership of the man is to provide support in that, into whatever you decide together. You have had issues in the past with, I know you had a learning disability.
I grew up with a learning disability and dyslexia, and listen, you don't want me with numbers. I will turn those things
you
around.
Flip them when you actually see them backwards.
Yeah, I will jack that up. Now, that doesn't mean that I still can't be the spiritual leader over the finances.
Right.
So let's just take this as, from a government, or I'll take it from a church standpoint, because I was on staff at church. So, my pastor, or I was executive pastor underneath the pastor, I was over the staff. Well, okay, I was over the staff. But does that mean that I was a better children's pastor or student pastor than those guys? No, absolutely not. My job wasn't to get in there and do the student ministry or do the children's ministry or discipleship ministry. My job was to make sure that they were encouraged, that they had a bullseye on the wall to point to, a mission, that they stayed on mission, and that they were equipped and had everything that they needed to do their job.
Yeah.
And that they were in a good place, right? And that's what a good leader does. So as the man of the house, if you're not good in finances or details or responsibility, you'd be dumb, and your wife's better than you. You'd be dumb to take them over, because that's called pride. But what we can do as spiritual leaders is to make sure that our wife feels like she has a partner in it, that she has support in it, that we're not just going to take, abdicate that responsibility. It's delegated, but it's not abdicated. So we can still, be a part of it and feel connected, partner with it.
Yes.
Let her know how appreciative you are of her doing that. Be responsible. If she needs you to keep receipts, or she needs you to, tailor back your spending, be responsible to partner with her in that.
Okay, so what are some practical things then? How can we partner together in our marriage that helps reduce the stress, because we're both shouldering this and we're doing this thing together? What are some practical things that we can do?
Well, I think first you've got to determine your mission. You got to see, what does God have for our family? And so marriage on mission. And then I think it's a great thing to sign up for a course or a master class or read a book or something like Financial Peace or something like that, that's going to put you on the same page with marriage, with money. And then from there, once you're on the same page, then here's some practical things. Schedule a money meeting. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's monthly, maybe it's weekly. It all depends on your situation. And we're really just talking about 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes. Maybe after the kids go to bed, grab some coffee, grab some dessert. Things are always a lot better when there's peanut butter pie involved.
Sure.
And or ice cream. And sit down and just talk about, okay, here's the expenditures last month. This went to this, this went to this. Oh, we signed up for that trial app, cable thing, and streaming thing. Oh, yeah, we got to cancel that, right? and then or we spend a little bit much in this category. Okay, that sometimes gets away from us. We need to tail that back. Or we can take money from here and put it here because this is something new that we feel like God wants us to do. And so those little meetings help unite you because you're attacking that problem together, right? Nothing
Yes.
unites two humans like a common enemy. That budget's going to be your quote unquote common enemy.
And this is a problem-solving meeting as much as this is not a one person's in charge saying you spent too much this week. This is not a take the person to task kind of meeting.
This is a teammate thing.
This is a teammate meeting. We're sitting shoulder to shoulder, looking at the stuff on paper or on the computer together, and we're getting on the same team and just being on the same. We got a game plan for the month.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. And then in that, be 100% honest about your spending, about your debt, about your expectations. And then do not let your kids run your budget. That's the third thing, right? Model stewardship. Tell your kids no. Let your kids know that mission drives your money and that whims don't drive your money.
And that's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
It is hard. But adults, we have to be adults.
Yes.
And that's going to benefit your kids when they're adults a lot better. Yeah. And then bring the Spirit into it. And this needs to happen with everything in our marriage. Pray together over your budget. Pray together over your finances. Remember, it's not yours.
Right.
We're stewards. It's all God's.
It does help to remember He is our provider and that we're the stewards. And so we need to know what is our mission, because God's going to fund the things that He's passionate, His heart is for.
Yep.
If we let Him write on our hearts what He wants us to spend our time and our resources on, then He's going to fund it. He'll take care of us, and He's going to provide for that. And He's not just after our money. It's not like He's just like, okay, I'm over everything.
He does not need.
No, He doesn't need our money, but He's after
His
our heart. And when we allow Him, when we have that understanding of whose it is and His provision of it, that brings peace in our hearts, because we don't have to be in control of it. We have to offer that to Him.
Yeah, and we got to remember, when we chase God's mission together, our marriage wins every time. So back to the thing. Money does not have to divide you.
Yeah.
When you attack it as a team, on mission, using both of your gifts and skill sets, then you can handle financial stress together.
Yes.
So
together being the key word.
That's right. That's right. So just a reminder, go to themarriageadventure.com and get that Marriage on Mission blueprint, or if you want to go on, get the Marriage on Mission course there, signature course. Man, you will not regret it. And listen, connect with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and especially YouTube. Like and subscribe to that channel, and you'll be getting this marriage coaching and this podcast in your feed every week. And keep in touch with us. Y'all have a great week and live on mission.
We are all